access for Zoom. I forwarded the invite from your email to the news. Forwarded the invite from your email to the news.
All right.
City of Belgium.
I think we have all the players in the room. So if everybody could find your seats, put your trays back up in their original positions. Yeah. We're coming into Chicago here. Yeah. All right. I think we're ready to start this meeting. I apologize today. I forgot my sport coat at home, so hopefully you all can take me seriously still. And
Should leave one here.
and I still get my
Leave a
gold
set
star
of
for the
clothes.
day. Yeah. I used to, but it's being dry cleaned. They are hummingbirds. They're hummingbirds. So the time being 10:34 a.m. December 27th, 2023. I'd like to call this meeting to order of Kane County's American Rescue Plan Committee. Clerk, please call roll for attendance.
Kenyon,
Here.
Bates.
Here.
Gums,
Comes here.
Leonard,
Leonard here.
Molina,
Molina present.
Strathman,
Strathman here.
Surges, Tepe,
Deppie here.
Sanchez.
Present.
You have a quorum?
Okay, remote attendance requests. I have
Empty.
one from Ms. Molina. Is there any objection to her attending remotely?
Consent.
Is there no objection? Yeah. Okay. She is approved to attend remotely. Thank you, Ms. Molina, for being here. Approval of the minutes of November 29th, 2023. I'll entertain a motion.
Council will ask for unanimous consent.
Any objection? Minutes are approved. Public comment on agenda items. I'm not aware of anyone who signed up. Okay, so we will move on. Discussion items. I don't have a report for you. I hope everyone had a good holiday. I know everybody's been pretty busy. So we will get on to other committee matters. I apologize. There is an item that should have been listed under discussion, and I'll blame the holidays that it didn't make it on. But in any case, we do have other committee matters in which we can discuss whatever we would like. So today we have a presentation. We have some members from the city of Aurora. Mr. Michael, Peggy's. He is going to give us a presentation today. The city of Aurora has a project that they're interested in partnering with the county on, utilizing ARPA funds. So he's going to come up and kind of walk us through what their proposal is. And we can have some discussion.
Good morning.
Oh, that's not on.
Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. Mike Piggies from the City of Aurora. We do have Mayor Irving on the line. Also, Chris Minnick, our CFO, Alex Alexandra, I believe, is there, our Chief of Staff as well. So I just want to first start by letting Mayor Irving do the introduction, and then we can jump into the presentation after his lead. Thank you.
Well, good morning, everyone. I hope you all had a good Christmas holiday. I can't really see all who's in the room there. Your box on my screen is a whole lot smaller where I'm sitting. But I appreciate the opportunity of having the audience with Kane County Board, this particular committee, to talk about the future of broadband here in the city of Aurora, specifically in our Kane County portion. What we'd like to do, and what we planned on doing over the last number of years, is to create a citywide broadband. That means every person, no matter where they live, no matter their socioeconomic status, will have the access to high-speed internet here in the city of Aurora. We saw during COVID how important that was, and how the folks that could not afford broadband were kind of left behind and left scrambling to try to make sure that kids could do something as simple as their homework online. We don't ever want that to happen again. I hope we never, ever have to deal with the circumstances that we had to deal with during COVID. But what we want to make sure that, and what we learned, is that we have to create an equity and equality across the board, is making sure that every individual has the access to high-speed broadband throughout our city. Kane County being our largest portion. As a matter of fact, in many portions of the city of Aurora, or smaller portions, are Aurora Township also, which we know have folks in those particular areas that are in need as well. So what we would like to do is make sure is to ensure we have what we're calling the fourth utility. That means we have broadband throughout our city. We are in a unique position in Aurora because we have what's called a strong fiber optic network. We have one of the largest fiber optic rings in any city outside of the city of Chicago. And that puts us in a position to where, as we try to expand our broadband capabilities, it'll make it much easier. With our fiber optic network, we're going to be able to reach to every single resident in the city of Aurora and Aurora Township, which is also including inside the city of Aurora. And as we grow, we'll be able to reach throughout Kane County and throughout the other counties that touch Aurora. Aurora, as you know, is in 4 different counties: Kane, Kendall, Will, and DuPage. But we want to start our building of this broadband infrastructure in our Kane County portion of the city. So any support that we can get from the board, we'd very much appreciate. As Mr. Piggies will point out, our CIO, we have a plan that is expansive and will be very impressive once it's completed. However, we need support. We need financial support. We need money to get this started. We can bring our fiber optic network to the table, but in partnership with other entities like Kane County, we're going to need funds to get this kicked off. As Michael talk about, the money that we had initially planned is about $120 million to bring broadband throughout the city of Aurora. And if we're going to add other portions of the township, unincorporated Aurora, it'll even be a little bit more expensive than that. So, any money that we can get from Kane County, we appreciate. And I understand there's probably about 25 million unencumbered in your ARPA funds that you have now. As much as we could use to get this broadband and start making sure we create an equal playing field and equity throughout our community to make sure every household and every young person, every family has access to high-speed internet. We want to make sure that happens. So we appreciate your support. We appreciate your consideration, and we look forward to you hearing this plan and hopefully agreeing with it and helping us with some seed money. Go ahead, Mike.
Thank you, Mayor. Also, I do want to acknowledge a couple other members. We have some of our members on the team from Municipal Capital Markets. They're out of Colorado, that they're on the phone as well, who will be providing us a loan for the portion of the network. Also, I'd like to have the other members introduce themselves real quick, part of the team.
Yeah, good morning, Rob Taylor, outside counsel for OnLight. Law firm is Gould and Ratner.
Charles Baker, Executive Director of OnLight Aurora and a proud Aurora resident.
And I believe I see Mr. Purwitz and Mr. Anderson on the.
Hello, Chris Perlitz from Municipal Capital Markets Group, and we've been in the broadband field. I've been specifically in utility broadband for a little over 20 years. I hail from Chicago, Carmel High School. I live in Colorado now, but had worked in this space for quite a while. So helping navigate this, lucky to have Charles and Michael with telecom experience, very unique situation that Aurora has in place. Thank you.
I believe there's Mr. Anderson.
Yes, Jim Anderson with Municipal Capital Markets. We have financed a number of broadband projects and look forward to helping finance this one.
All right, so with that, I'll just get to the point. I just provide a quick overview. But first of all, this project, Internet for All, Broadband for All, Lightspeed project, goes by different names. It's intended to be a forward-thinking economic development strategy founded on the fundamental belief that business growth, innovation, community transformation will follow with every connection in the city and throughout Kane County, Will, DuPage, and Kendall. Internet is seen as the fourth utility. We actually refer to it always as a fourth utility because it's no longer a necessity. It's no longer a luxury. It's actually a necessity, just like gas, water, or electricity. And as the mayor said, we saw the impacts of that during COVID with the kids as well. So the project will enable the next generation broadband network infrastructure to support our public sector telecommunications need, bridge service gaps, enhance redundancy, and also provide access to advanced telecommunication capabilities to enable the private sector to use shared infrastructure to better deliver broadband services and therefore reducing the burden on the cities and the counties, thereby providing enhanced broadband service to the cities and surrounding areas and benefits, municipal impacts, which actually include education, public safety, health services, with an internal combination of smart city platforms, as we work very tightly with our county partners, and thank Roger for his vision and his support over the last 6.5 years since I've been in the public sector. It also helps our telecommuting and also our telehealth services as well. It also positively impacts our social economic aspects. It also increases the home values within our communities and helps to further develop workforce development and training. There are specific impacts also with the underserved and those historically disenfranchised communities while we tackle this digital divide. And with that, instead of me sitting here trying to explain it to you, we have a short video. It's less than 3 minutes, and we'd like to kind of give you an overview of what this will provide to the city of Aurora and the surrounding counties.
I was just going to say, cue. It's coming.
We all love technology, don't we? The volume. And again, while he's getting that, and again, OnLight Aurora, which is our community internet service provider, has been established since 2012. It actually uses our access fiber capacity to deliver services currently to different entities throughout Aurora, like Rush Copley Hospital, a lot of the local schools, a lot of the non for profits. What else am I missing, Charles, in there? Yes. Yeah. All the anchor institutions, fire stations, city hall, the city.
Aurora University.
And Aurora University, Aurora Christian, a lot of different schools, hospitals. Yes, sir.
What about out to Aurora Airport?
There is fiber out there as of this year to Aurora Airport as well, to enhance our public safety as well.
Because I belong to the Air Classics Museum out there, and up until we're on fiber now, but up until 2 years ago, AT&T could give us DSL only, and it was only 1.5 meg speed, and they were charging us for a lot more.
But we have 10 gig and now 100 gig service out to the airport.
Are
as
we
well.
able to take advantage of that as a, I mean, because we want
Absolutely.
Metronet. Okay.
Absolutely.
I'll talk to you off afterwards.
Absolutely, sir.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. And I just want to see if there's any quick questions before we go into the presentation. I think we can knock this presentation out in 5 or 10 minutes and we can open it up for questions.
Yeah, I think just give your presentation, then we can go to
Absolutely.
discussion.
Thank you, Chair. So with that, I will give you a quick overview of the Internet for All deployment build out. This is specifically phase 1. And again, thanks for the collaboration with Mayor Irving, Kane County, the commissioners, and also the supporting agencies. All right. So, all right, there we go. So just a little bit of information here. Charles Baker is our Executive Director for OnLight, and Jim Hurley, our Chief Financial Officer. I'm not going to go into the details of this. I already mentioned a little bit about OnLight Aurora. I think many people are very familiar with it. We've also worked with Kane County over the, I don't know, last decade or so or more, you know, with regards to our fiber optic backbone. So I'm going to skip down. It's a little information for you as well, and I'll provide this presentation. This little background about our municipal capital markets partners who's providing us a loan, Mr. Anderson, and also Mr. Purwitz. You can see there's probably about over, I'm going to say it, so please, about over 80 years of experience there with financial services, but specifically with municipal utilities and broadband as well. All right, I spoke a little bit about the actual project itself. I'm not going to repeat myself with that as well. And the actual video itself, I think, articulated a lot better than I ever could in words. So I'm just going to skip through that. All right, so this is kind of the overview of the actual deployment. I'm going to pass this over to Mr. Baker to take us through this briefly.
Okay, and as you see from the map, we're looking at our citywide deployment, but of course, Rome wasn't built in a day, and there's no way you can expand broadband to the entire city in just one construction interval. So what we're actually doing to minimize disruption in the neighborhood, also to target the areas that are most needed, this kind of infrastructure, we're breaking the build down into 3 phases. Phase 1, which is about, I'll say 21 district areas, but it kind of focuses on some of our underserved communities. Phase 2, which we get a little bit more east of Aurora. Then finally, phase 3, which is more of the west of Aurora. Now, go to the next slide. In the total, once we're able to kind of do this, we should look at about 63,000 passings. In other words, our goal is to bypass fiber to every residence in Aurora and also be able to pick up those surrounding businesses to give them that opportunity to have a competitive service. Now, the map that you're seeing is just kind of a map of the city of Aurora, but it also shows some of the areas that we're going to target in our first phase. As you see, wards 3 and 7, we targeted them as we knew they had exceptional issues during the pandemic in terms of children being able to actually access high-speed internet. Also, there's a large concentration of underserved communities, and we think that our product would not only help in terms of quality, but also affordability. Oh, I'm sorry, and I did want to point this out. I know we discussed a little bit about the build out. Now, of course, phase 1 is centered around the city of Aurora, but if you look at the map, there's also some unincorporated areas of Aurora, which reside in Kane County. Hopefully through this partnership, we can include them in the next interval of installations. In fact, being that we're early in the process, we can work together to make sure we cover them as quickly as possible.
And the unincorporated areas are the gray spaces that you see.
Oh, if you come closer to the microphone, just so everybody can hear you online.
Absolutely. And the unincorporated areas for Kane County is the gray area in those specific spaces. That's like Marywood, I believe it's Mokerville, correct me if I'm wrong here, Mayor. I don't know the neighborhood names, but I know the areas themselves, but it is the gray area on there. That's the unincorporated Kane County. And we're going to get down into some more specific details here with those. We talked about the city of Aurora itself inside the city limits is about, I'm just going to round it up, 63,000 passings. What does that mean? The fiber will pass 63,000 residential homes. And as you can see, the commercial and industry area, it's about 3,500. That's the city of Aurora. Now in phase 1, if we were to include Kane County unincorporated, it would pass those 3,150, I'm sorry, let's just say 3,200 total residential homes in Kane County unincorporated. And then there's an additional 225 for the commercial and industrial areas. All right. This is really just a high level timeline in terms of the deployment. And correct me if I'm wrong, Charles, I think it's about a 5-6 year total build out for the entire city to pass 63,000 residential homes and those commercial things. I mean, it's, as they mentioned, Rome wasn't built in a day, but what we're trying to do is leverage our fiber optic infrastructure that we have today to pass those homes, those businesses, those schools, those anchor institutions, and provide services at an affordable price as well, and provide additional smart city services like cyberbullying protection, video, and things of that nature at an economical price. And I'm just going to throw some prices out there, a range, and please, MCM, correct me if I'm wrong, but what we're looking at for a gig of service, which basically will support a single family home, a family unit of about 6, right? So that's gaming, telework, so forth and so on, and the kids being educational, providing school services for about, I'm going to say, what was it, Charles? Was it $59.95, right? So that's about half the price. I know I pay $130 for Comcast as of today, and that's just internet, right? And we have to look at these things as commodities. But we have our financial services people on who could talk a little bit more about that as well. But I'm just going to kind of flip through here. This is also phase 2. And again, I'll actually provide this so you can go into this in a little bit more details, right? And with that, I'd just like to take a pause, and I would just ask Mr. Perlitz and Mr. Anderson if they can just give kind of a quick overview in terms of the total capital cost of this project. And then we can talk, Roger, about the actual submission as well for ARPA. Mr. Perlitz, can you take about 2 minutes and just kind of give an overview in terms of the capital and operational costs?
Yeah, basically, what Michael and team is looking to build is going to be a robust fiber infrastructure, which allows for scalability, which is important. The existing incumbents have HFC hybrid fiber coax combinations, which prevent them from having the speeds upload and download. But what that means is, having a gig is one thing, but having a gig that allows for expandability and users, so you don't have issues with IP addressing, you don't have issues with application layer services going up the upload speed, which is important for innovative purposes. We're seeing in other communities like Chattanooga, Tennessee, where they're expanding the different types of application layer services on top of the pipe. They're doing smart grid applications. They're doing, smart city applications. They're inventing new innovative ways to make the community more safe. And all of that is a byproduct of this pipe, of this big fat pipe that we're building. But from an economic perspective, these networks take time to build. Like you said, you don't build it in a day. And so we're proposing doing this in increments. In this space, the issues we've run into in the past have been people building the infrastructure too fast, carrying too much debt. Mistakes that have been made 20 years ago even were made because municipalities, governments generally aren't good at using funds, right? So what we're doing is we're tamping that process by allowing the capital to be raised when the revenues are being generated from the infrastructure. And so that's a combination of all revenues, right? Anchor infrastructure or anchor revenues from the municipal governments, from data centers, all the commercial users that will benefit from it, from the speed benefit, and then also the residential, and that all rolls into the build-out plan. So we're doing it very conservatively. The total build-out in Aurora is about 100 and, catch me if I'm wrong, Jim, but about 125 million. But we're planning on raising the capital and doing it in pieces. I come from the tech side. Jim is probably more of a financial guy than I am, although I have been doing this for quite a while on the investment banking side. But Jim, do you want to talk a little bit about the metrics?
Well, there you can see on this. You can see on the screen it is 122 million. That could be slightly higher with building it over a period of time with somewhat higher prices, but 122 to 125 million. With the first phase being right at 40 million would be the first phase. So part of that could be financed, or part or all of it could be financed, but it's works out a lot better in terms of what the price is to the customer. If we can bring in some grant money from the county and or the state, that'll help a great deal. We don't expect to get it all that way, so there is a plan to issue revenue bonds for the remainder.
And just to be clear, we're talking a loan, not a bond.
Yeah.
We're talking a loan.
Excuse me.
Yes, exactly. Bond not not entailing taxes is support, right? We're using the revenues from the system to pay for the debt service. And that's why, as an underwriter here, we're being very careful on what capacity of debt you can carry. Right? So in the format of it is that we'll form a document which can be used over and over and over again as the project grows, like we've done in other markets. So we could even do a small cap raise for 5 million one year, or for 6 months if it makes sense. But we're going to do this slowly and methodically. And once the network's built, puts off a lot of cash flow, which then can be turned into benefits of the social benefits. You could have all sorts of crazy subsidies for the community. You could use it to build more infrastructure, police, fire, rescue. It could go into all sorts of avenues for the county to vet the constituents. So
And
one of the important
I'm sorry,
uses of the cash flow would be,
I'm sorry, Mr. Anderson. I just had a
sorry.
quick question. So what Chris was mentioning, those subsidies can be pumped back in the community, which is a very important aspect coming to Aurora and Kane County. Can that be pumped back into for public health, for mental health services as well?
Sure, absolutely. It could be used for whatever the city council would determine. And of course, one of the uses is to maintain the top technology too, as you go along.
So refreshes and life cycle upgrades to keep the network latest
Well,
and greatest.
Because one of the
yeah,
things we know that technology will change.
Absolutely.
Well, in the communities that are using it, telemedicine's a big push, right? So they're using the leverage of having this infrastructure, even on a wireless basis, to allow for more innovative methods of telemedicine, and that's been a real benefit. There's a lot of applications we haven't even seen yet, right? And then the reason why we haven't is because we've been stifled with the current infrastructure that exists in our community. So we're building something innovative enough to allow us to build more application, as we say, layer services across the whole strata of government.
All right, thank you very much. And last, Mayor, before I hand it back over to you, Roger, did you have a couple things you'd like to say? Roger's been my mentor for the last 6.5 years. I'll lean on this guy a lot. So
I just wanted to say, all the way back to when we started with CARES Act and then ARPA, there was a discussion about the expansion of the fiber footprint and what the county could do with fiber. And the county's investment in fiber has largely been one of basically like a wholesale of an asset, or looking at it as kind of the middle mile or long distance connections. We're not set up to do service to residential or to homes and businesses. Over the years, we've partnered and worked with OnLight in the city of Aurora. We connect multiple buildings for the county through the city's network. We're really grateful that they have the network that they have. It provides services for the health department, the court services, the branch court. We do public safety with the city of Aurora through that. So there's already a lot of activity, things that we do as shared services in government. The second part is that because the county's network has a lot of reach, we cover a lot of miles. We go from south of 88 to north of 90. And we also have connections into data center and a couple of the community colleges. So there's some advantages for us cooperating. We've been trying to cooperate with them to the extent that we're able to under the current Illinois statutes. We think that there's good opportunity to expand on the county and the city's fiber infrastructure. And I think that this is just one way of doing that. So this isn't a new topic, but under our there was some requests that we had put forward for fiber optic infrastructure. And I'm not sure if they're still in the list of projects, but what we were looking at was how the county would consider a fiber project that was cooperative and working with the city. And I think that's what I had forwarded to Chairman Sanchez, kind of the request of, I don't know exactly where you're at in the process of accepting any applications or if you're entertaining that, but they wanted the opportunity to present it to the committee. So with that, I think if you have any questions, you have an audience of people that probably can try to answer them.
Any questions from the committee at this time? Mr. Tepe?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First off, I wish we would have had some notice on this presentation and some of this information in advance. I think some of us would have been better prepared to ask some questions and to get involved. All right. I have a lot of questions that are a bit more technical. You're talking about a municipal area network here, which has been done in different areas, but this is a technology that keeps evolving. So are you talking about delivering fiber to the home?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Okay, and you're going to do that underground?
We're going to do it all terrestrial.
You're going to do it all above ground?
100%.
All underground?
All underground. Yes, sir.
Okay. And how are you interacting with the wireless world of today and you know, getting fiber into an individual's house, which means it needs to then connect up to some kind of device, you know, to provide wireless activity there. So you're going to be competing against Xfinity or Comcast in that kind of service right there?
Absolutely. And yes, to your question, the wireless will be an application in specific use cases. So if you have like stadiums, for example, like Rivers Edge Park and things of that nature, right? But yes, we will be competing against Comcast and AT&T, and we've done market studies. But I'd also like our MCM team to comment on that, because I know there's a lot of trepidation and concerns about competing against, you know, those incumbents. Chris, do you want to provide some feedback?
Yeah, we call that technical obsolescence as one of the concerns when we're analyzing the risk factor in a competitive market. And in every market, technically, even in really rural markets, most of the big push with the $65 billion coming down from the federal government this year is going into rural markets. But on the wireless side, even if it's 5G, you have to have a fiber line to connect to. Right, so Verizon, T-Mobile, those players need to have a backhaul to put up the 5G, because 5G is a very localized. As the speed requirement goes up, you have to get closer and closer and closer to the user, right? So, for example, in the old days, you could go, 1 megahertz frequencies. The military used to use. It would go 500 miles, right? Now you have, you had very little data speed at that distance. So in order to have, more speed or higher bandwidth, you have to have a higher frequency, which means more sine wave, more oscillating waves in order to get more speed. And so because of that, you have to have, for 5G, have the cells closer to the user. And so that requires fiber. So even in the cases of our rural markets, we're seeing T-Mobile, and I believe there's some discussion here with the Aurora team as well, to bring in a wireless provider that doesn't currently have a big footprint in Aurora, and they could work over the existing fiber infrastructure that exists. And that could cover quite a bit of the revenues needed to justify the infrastructure here. But one of the problems we have is that everyone's sort of saying, oh, we have 5G service in our communities. You don't have 5G there, right? You might have a few little towers here and there, but it's not 5G. And even if it is 5G, it's not going to attenuate through your wall to provide the speed you need at your home, in your home. And so there is this sort of technical obsolescence question. And I think it would be best, frankly, to have a Q&A, have a session set up for Q&A where we could sit down physically and discuss this. It's kind of I think you're right. The original, whoever asked the question said, well, we needed some time. I think here on this end as well, I'd like to sit down and do a face-to-face Q&A to explain what we're doing and why we're doing it and what the future benefits are and kind of really walk through the model. It's hard to get a first blush analysis by looking at something and say yes or no. I agree with that.
Right. So, thank you, Chris. But let me go back to a specific point to the commissioner too. You mentioned about competing with Comcast and AT&T. There's already municipalities that are doing that. The two examples that we had on the screen was Longmont, Colorado and Pharr, Texas. They also have Ontario, California. There's also Alberta, Canada, Chattanooga. You know, Mayor Burke, who was a longtime mayor there in Chattanooga, who set up the EPB with the Electrical Power Board in Chattanooga, who was the state senator there as well. We had conversations with him, and he continues to say it can be done, and it has been done, right? You know, this is, you know, the internet services are becoming commodities, right? So the prices are going to go down. So you ask, how can you compete with Comcast? If I provide you that same service at $50, right, $59, right, which one are you going to consider, right? If the service is there, the reliability or the cost is there, I know which one I'm going to pick, right? And, you know, not to mention that with the federal government, with the NTIA, there is the Affordable Connectivity Program, which provides another $30 credit to those families that meet the average to medium income. So that's really basically like $29 for residents who meet that threshold, right? So it can be done. It has been done. And, you know, I know there's a lot of risk and trepidation there, but again, you know, there are additional use cases
Well,
to
my-
solidify that.
My question's about what you intend to do, okay? Because I live in a neighborhood where they put fiber in the ground for every house 15 years ago, and they've never used it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we're using it today and we will use it.
But that's, you know, the challenge of actually using it. And I don't want to get into a real discussion about technology. My point about the competition is that I don't know if it is the place for Kane County funds, for this board and for ARPA funds to be put into an environment where we are then helping another municipality to compete with existing with existing situations. I'm not sure if that's the best use for these kinds of funds, although I kind of like applaud the effort of really putting in a very robust municipal area network. So again, I wish we would have had more time to review some of this, and I'd appreciate some more details on this if you could email it to me so that I can look it over. Thank you.
Absolutely, we can do that.
Ms. Bates, you had your hand up next.
I did. I'm pretty sure that that I've got a fiber optic cable going through my front yard. 20 or 30 years ago, they put in a great big honking cable. Why is it so expensive now? The construction, the cable is already there.
It's typically the last mile, but again, the difference is with these ISPs, and I'll just be very direct. They're cherry picking the neighborhoods, right? I mean, just like if you pick up the phone and call one and then come and say, I want this service, they're going to charge you a setup fee, right? To connect that fiber from the street to your home, right? That's the last mile. That's what we hear about all the time. And what we want to do is be able to have those costs subsidized so we can lower that cost for the constituents, right? So that cost would be, how you say, assumed by OnLight or the NewCo. Right? So if you call and say, we want to set this service up, there'll be some nominal fee, right? I mean, I think how much was it? Like, Chris, I don't remember what the model was, like $30 or something like that, just to set it up. And then they would connect it to your house, and then you have that internet service at gig speeds, right? I mean, that is kind of the quintessential definition of the digital divide. It's about the haves and the haves not. If you can afford it, it's there. If you can't afford it, too bad. Right. And that's why with our deployment plan, we want to go to those disenfranchised communities first. Ward 7, where there was the late great Alderwoman Chiquita Hartburn. What other? It's 2, 7, and I think there's parts of 1 in there as well. But we're starting with the disenfranchised communities first, right? Not the more affluent neighborhoods, right? Because they can afford it. Right?
Was that it, Ms. Bates?
So the 125 million is
Total cost.
a 6-foot connection or 20-foot connection, but that's what you're calling the last mile?
No,
Getting
the
it
last
from the
mile.
cable to the home?
Yeah, the last mile is from the street to your house, or from the street to whatever commercial building,
All right.
right? And typically the businesses and commercial entities have the money to pay for that. If I'm a business, medium, small, not small, medium or large business, I can pay for that. But if I'm a small business or a non-for-profit, I can't pay for those costs,
Okay.
right?
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Lewis and then Mr. Roth.
Yeah, Anita Lewis, District 3, Aurora. And I've been following the Aurora fiber optics for years. And so I'm actually excited about it. But my question is, I believe that Aurora got 35 million in ARPA funds. And my question is, oh, excuse me, 65 million in ARPA funds. I was corrected. How much of that has the city of Aurora allocated for this project?
I'll kick that back over to the mayor and Chris Minnick. There we have, I believe, our CFO on there somewhere. Mayor Irving, are you there?
No, he's gone.
Mr. Minnick?
He's there.
So I don't have the specific numbers, but
He's on.
Is Alexandro?
But also, just to remind everyone, we did do the No Child Left Off line where we actually set up, what was it? 11 community centers with high-speed internet during COVID back in 2020. The monies that was used for that came from ARPA as well. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Alex or Chris, I think it was somewhere from $500,000 to $1 million of costs. And also the city is also assuming the cost of the internet service for all those non-for-profits and those community centers throughout the city of Aurora. They're still paying that, and there's a 5-year contract that the city has with OnLight to pay the service, so they don't have to pay for it as well.
Yeah, that is correct, Mike. Thank you very much. And we have put some ARPA money and some ARPA funding into underservice or service of some of those underserviced areas, as you had indicated. In addition, we have put some ARPA money into some maintenance and some improvements to the fiber ring as we have gone along, and enhance the capabilities of the network as well. Additionally, we have provided some STEM education for underserved youth out of the ARPA funding as well. So there has been a technology component and a presence and a service to and a commitment to providing both service and education in technical types of aspects for underserved areas.
Okay, thank you.
I might mention that the city has, even prior to ARPA, way back in 2012, they began building the fiber ring. They got 137-mile fiber ring now. So there's considerable money that has been spent on that. Not ARPA money, but city money.
Right, I understand that, but maybe Alex, if he could just at some point get back, I just want to know how much of the 65 million ARPA money Aurora has allocated to this project.
Mr. Roth and then Ms. Bates.
I have two things. You mentioned, other cities that have put in their own fiber. I know about 10 years ago, St. Charles tried to get a referendum passed, and I know AT&T and Comcast spent millions to defeat that. And then a month afterwards, they raised the rates to pay for their marketing.
That's classic.
So it is classic. The other thing is there is an opportunity. I mean, Kane County isn't in worrying about the final mile, but we have the backbone, which we could tie into. Unfortunately, the one law that got passed in the state a few years ago is preventing us from working with you, and we're trying to get that changed. And that was the lobbyists, Comcast and AT&T, passing that to rule out competition.
Right. I don't think we have that problem in Aurora, but Mayor Irving or Alex, do you want to comment on that? Because again, yeah, go ahead.
I believe Mayor Irvin and Mr. Alexandru had to pop off.
Okay. But again, OnLight has been established since 2012 and we've been operating in that space.
Right.
So, I mean, there's already a precedent set in the city of Aurora.
And then the comment Mr. Tepe made about, we don't necessarily want to just concentrate on Aurora. Having fiber out to the airport, which is actually going to Sugar Grove, we're already expanding, where we can allow for other cities and stuff.
That's actually a very good point, because I spoke with the administrator, Edinburgh, who was the city, and we were talking, he was like, you guys are right across the street. Can I get that lateral, that last mile to my building for the public safety? And we were talking about that. So we're going to be talking about that in 2024 as well.
But yeah, long term, the county needs to look for the whole county.
Absolutely.
Ms. Bates?
I just want to thank you for bringing this to us. This is a great idea. I think the devil is going to be in the details. I think we should move on with our agenda now and get more in writing, a little bit more that we can really dig into, if that's okay with you, Mr. Chairman.
I appreciate that, Ms. Bates. I do have a question or two, though, before we move on. What's that? You can't hear me. Got to move closer. Has your team researched the ARPA eligibility guidelines for the type of usage that you're envisioning?
Yes, we are definitely familiar with that as well, and these do qualify. And Mr. Minnick is there as well. Again, we've used ARPA funds in the past for specifically this type of installation, right, for fiber as well.
So just looking at your timeline of the phases, ARPA we have to be allocated by the end of 2024, which means money is starting to be spent on a project and it has to be expended by the end of 2026. So really, we're only talking about phase one. If we were going to chip in on this project as a county, phase one would be the only place. And just looking maybe at the construction and material, that timeline that does seem a little risky. Is there any concern that if we were to fund, let's say, $20 million of that construction, that we would be able to fulfill that timeline?
Yeah, Mr. Anderson, do you want to comment on that, or Mr. Hurwitz?
Yeah, I'll comment. Yes, I think that you could easily have the money expended by the end of 25. Especially if we get right on this now, beginning of 24. Our plans are to issue a loan quickly, and whatever grant money we have available, we could spend that first so that we can obtain those deadlines. I think it's very doable.
I know sometimes construction can get pushed back and things
Well,
happen.
Absolutely, Commissioner Sanchez. Our objective is to have shovels in the ground right after this so-called winter that we're having now. So,
Ms. Bates.
I love this idea, and I don't want to get your hopes up too high because we have a list of many other projects that have already been approved. And that $20 million has been pretty much, we've got a very long list here. I just don't want to, I love it. My town is Aurora, and I don't think there's a lot of work to be done and a very long list ahead of you. So.
or whatever's available, we're 100% open for the conversation. Again, we just wanted to present the opportunity. We're moving forward with this regardless. We just wanted King County to continue to be a partner and also basically provide those services to the unincorporated because they're probably more underserved than a lot of other areas inside the city of Aurora as well.
Right. So thank you for bringing this to us.
Thank you.
Mr. Roth, one more question.
Sorry, one more thing I forgot. Have you worked with the state of Illinois? It's the Illinois Extension has a project going on for getting broadband out to everyone.
Right. I am working with Matt Schmidt, who is the director for broadband under Governor Pritzker.
Okay.
We do have a submission for the Connect Illinois broadband loan as well.
Okay, good enough.
Which I think the next phase is coming up here in January. Then there's one other round after that, then I believe it's done.
All right. Thank you.
Mhm.
All right, thank you, Mr. Peggy.
Thank you.
Your
Thank
whole
you,
team
Warren. Thank
for
you.
being here today, and we'll be in touch. And thank you. Okay, new business. We have a couple resolutions and some conversation to have. So I'll entertain a motion on authorizing amendment 23-357, authorizing the use of state and local fiscal recovery funds to hire 2 staff members for the American Rescue Plan Program and fund associated expenses.
Bates moves.
Bates moves.
Kendall, second.
The only change here is we're increasing the per hour amount from 25 something an hour to 31. Any questions on this, Madam Chair?
Why the increase? Just curious.
Just to make sure that we're staying competitive in the job market because it hasn't been easy finding and keeping people. So having this increase allows us to really make it more persuasive for applicants.
this is not increasing. I know that there's 2 staff people currently. Is this increasing it to a total of 4? Or is it going to remain 2 just with the $31, the increasing hourly compensation?
Outside of the program manager's position, we have 3 positions. And that this amendment will cover those 3 positions.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions, comments? Okay, clerk, please call the roll.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Bates,
Bates, yes.
Gums,
Gums, yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Molina,
Molina, yes.
Strathman, Surges, I'm sorry, Tepe,
Tepe, yes.
Sanchez.
Sanchez, yes. Next resolution, authorizing amendment to resolution 23-356, authorizing the use of revenue recoupment funds under the American Rescue Plan Act for the countywide water monitoring project, network project, and water sustainability mapping project for the Kane County Department of Environmental and Water Resources. I entertain
Bates
a
moves.
motion. Bates moves.
Strathman seconds.
Strathman seconds. This is a project or projects that were previously approved. Upon further research, it was identified that it would be a more appropriate use of the revenue recoupment money for these projects. So that's what this amendment resolution is contemplating. Any questions at this time? Hearing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Bates,
Bates, yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Gums,
Gums, yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Molina,
Molina, yes.
Strathman,
Strathman, yes.
Tepe,
Tepe, yes.
Sanchez.
Sanchez, yes. Okay, next up, a discussion on the potential for a new public health department building. I'm going to share my screen here just to kind of just set this up very briefly. The idea is that obviously we are interested in building a new public health building. A lot of conversation has occurred with our capital master planning. So you all should be aware that there were multiple opportunities investigated for the health department building, including renovation, leasing space, and a full build out. A full build out was considered to be the most viable solution to the problem, considering the cost of all alternatives. And so the team at the county here has been going forward and actually taking this project seriously now that we have a risk assessment in from Ernst & Young, our third-party consultant, and you all will receive a copy of that soon. It's still in draft form. But essentially, if we're going to go after a new public health department building, what is that going to look like? What's the timeline? So that's what I'll walk you through first. And the buttons aren't clicking. There we go. So first off, it's not going to be just ARPA funds that make this project happen. It's going to have to be a combination of county funds as well with ARPA funds. On the county side, we are looking into multiple different possible revenue streams. So we're still investigating the viability of those options. Obviously, we do have, fund balance that seems to be an easy solution to any problem of funding, but that is not always quite the case, especially when the county has a lot of decisions to make on what to do with those fund balances going into the future, considering the state of our budget gap every year. And this will also require multiple committees with multiple resolutions. So the timeline, what we're contemplating to really get this project moving and make sure we're not going to fall outside of that timeline issue with ARPA requirements. We're having our discussion today, and this will just kind of inform some of our conversation at a committee of the whole. We're looking at the second week of January, the week of county board. And the idea being, we can today just kind of get that ball rolling, see what people's thoughts and feelings are just on this initial blush with the concept. Give us a little more time to prepare the information in full for a committee of the whole, where the entire board can discuss this project, the ins and outs of it, the pros and the cons, look at all of the funding options available, and start to really decide what we would like to do going forward. And assuming that the board is really interested in this project, that conversation at committee of the whole will inform the final resolutions that will then begin to go through the committee flow process. So that will look like, first, we'll have a special ARPA committee meeting. There will be a couple resolutions there, and we would have to talk about when to have that. Friday, January 12th, Monday, January 15th would be the most likely dates. But again, we have to make sure we're going to have a physical quorum and that everyone who wants to participate is likely able to. And then from there, we'll have a public health committee meeting, the normal date. There will be a couple resolutions that go to that committee as well that start there. Have conversations, and then finance committee will take all of those resolutions, and then there will be some additional resolutions authorizing use of certain county funds potentially. That will then be at finance. And then from there in February, all of those resolutions can be forwarded from executive committee to the county board. So that is the proposed timeline for approval
Chairman?
of this project. Ms. Strathman?
The Public Health Committee is going to have a special public health meeting on January 3rd
On January 3rd?
at 9 a.m. Yes.
What is the topic
To
for that?
discuss the resolutions, if we want to go in with this, there will be some resolutions that would have to be passed through the committee process to get into the discussion for the other following committees.
Okay, I guess I wasn't made aware of
It was just decided. I
that
apologize.
potential. Because as far as I understand, the ARPA resolutions would be separate from the Public Health Committee resolutions. They would go along similar tracks, but that is the will of the Public Health Committee to have that special meeting.
Yes, on
But
January
but
3rd.
again, the committee of the whole conversation may change some of the information that goes into those resolutions. So just my suggestion would be to consider waiting until after committee of the whole. But in any case, there will be multiple resolutions. This isn't just a very small project that we're envisioning here. This is a large scale construction project that will need to be coordinated very closely to ensure that not only are we compliant with ARPA regulations, but that, well, especially with ARPA regulations in terms of getting this done in time and making sure that we're not outside of compliance. I don't have, I'm sorry, in front of me, we have a dashboard that's sent out as part of the agenda packet that will show you some of the funds that are available in the ARPA 355 fund. What we're looking at is we think we have about $20 million in unallocated monies. Now you have in front of you the chart. Thank you. You have in front of you the chart that was printed out for you that was sent to you last night, listing all of the projects that we have open right now or that have come in to us, some of which have been canceled. By working with the department heads, we maybe have realized that the project really isn't very compliant with ARPA or is too risky to fund, or the time has just gone too long and there's no way to get it done in time, or conditions have changed for those departments. So some departments have just pulled back their projects. Thank you very much to Suzanne Fonstock for working closely with everyone to try and determine that, to help us really get a good, clear view of where we're at. Now you're going to notice down under consideration, the items colored in yellow. So those are ones that the ones at the very end are the new and external grants. So that's separate from the department requests, which are the other projects in yellow. So when we've talked about department requests in the past, it was originally $42 million that we conceptually allocated in our spending plan. These are all projects that are in various stages of review, simply because, we really did bite off a lot by opening up to all of our departments and saying yes to about 70 different projects. Hindsight's always 20/20, but here we are. We have quite a few in this under consideration category that the future of these projects is uncertain. We're still going through, review meetings with department heads and elected officials. There are a couple here from like the development department, project 69 and 70, that very likely, that we will be taking them out of the under consideration and putting them into the allocated category. But some of these other ones, from what we're seeing, are most likely not going to be approved, or maybe ones that we just would not want to be funding in order to fund the public health department building. So this is a complex project, a lot of things going on. We don't have all of the details on the status of these projects as far as will we be funding them, yes or no. But really today, I just wanted to kind of get a feel of everyone's pulse of, would you be comfortable, going through with the public health department building project, knowing that we would have to cancel a lot of these projects under consideration? I think some of the really big projects that we got out of the department requests have been approved. You know, I can think of already just some of the development department projects. Obviously, we just had the big one from the health department with the behavioral health initiative, which, you know, is a huge one. Some of the water resources ones that got out of the gates right away. So we really have done a lot of good work already. But again, these are things that were just conceptually approved by this committee and the full county board. So none of them are, for the most part, none of them are under obligation for funding at this time. They don't have full resolutions allocating specific funds. And yeah, so in order to go after the public health department building, we really would need to cancel the majority of these projects under consideration. With that, I will open it up to any questions, comments, conversation. Ms. Strathman?
Yes, could you tell me again what the different colors on the chart are?
Yeah, so if you look in the column second to the right, it shows the status under consideration.
Oh, I
So
see.
yellow
Okay.
is under consideration, white is allocated, and so on.
Okay.
Gray
thank
is
you.
canceled.
Thank
Yeah.
you. And then also on your possible special ARPA meeting, Monday, January 15th is Martin Luther King Day. So you might want to take that off of that.
Yeah, maybe
for
Tuesday. I
possibility.
didn't look at the calendar.
Yeah.
Not closely, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we can meet, but you know, I think we're closed
But
for
a good
business
place
that
for
day.
breakfast and.
Yeah, we can meet for breakfast and hope that the state's attorneys, no, I'm just kidding. No, we're not gonna do that.
Yeah.
Thank you for the reminder, though. Any other questions, comments, thoughts?
you.
Mr. Leonard?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In looking at the under consideration, you said 69 and 70 look like they might be approved or could be approved. That's 6 million. Is that 6 million part of the 20 million?
No, from what we understand, we would be able to fund those projects and still have the money.
Still have 20
contemplated.
million after those?
Yeah, we're looking at 18 to 20 million for the public health department building. Madam Chair.
Just the 20 million, I think it's important that we know approximately as close as we can how much money is unallocated. And I asked Ms. Mrs. Fonstock, and she mentioned it was 25 million that we have left. So
Not officially. I can let you answer more if you'd like.
In front of you, Jared, that's 18 plus an improvement fund.
Yeah, so when we contemplate revenue recoupment as part of that, that does bump it up to 25.
because we have to, we're going to be down to like a penny. So just so we know exactly how much money we have.
Yeah,
for
essentially,
potential
you know,
allocation.
this project would require the majority of what we have left in the ARPA funds. We could expend all of the remaining ARPA funds with this project if we choose to. If there are still some things we'd like to go after and save, you know, $5 million, $6 million to do those things, we can do that. It's really whatever we want to recommend. We obviously don't make the decision as this committee. We only recommend to the full board. So that's why I wanted to start this conversation today, just to see what everybody's what is their feeling about this, and what kind of information would you like to see presented at the committee of the whole as well? Ms. Gums and then Ms. Bates.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think we're getting ahead of ourselves here a little bit because I keep feeling like I'm in the twilight zone. Obviously, we know that the health department building is an issue here, but I'm not sure who decided that it was cheaper to build a new building or to renovate one, because we didn't do that as a collective. We were going to get back to that. So that's problematic for me. I have all kinds of questions about how we got to these resolutions, how we got to this place, and why that's in ARPA when we haven't decided that collectively. So those are issues that I have serious questions about. I think we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Well, and that's why I think it's very important that we have that conversation at committee of the whole, because I didn't want to just create these resolutions with an assumption that that's what everybody wants to do. I want us all to talk about that as an entire board, and committee of the whole is a great way to do that, where everybody can kind of let their hair down and just have the conversation, ask all of the tough questions, look at all of the options, weigh the pros and cons. As far as the alternatives, I believe White and Company, you know, they put out the information.
No, they did not. Mr. Chair, listen,
Mr. Fonsack, could you just kind of address that? Because I do believe that that was discussed previously with the board.
I don't have the exact date, but at the committee of the whole, we presented kind of the scenario of if you were to renovate the existing building, if you were to buy a building and renovate a building, and then also the idea of constructing a building, those three different concepts were presented at a committee of the whole. I believe it was in October.
So
I can have that
Exact date,
sent out
but
again, though.
That was using supportive information from White and Company. I believe I spoke about it myself, but
We didn't vote on that.
no, there was no voting. It was just committee of the whole. You can't vote it. It's committee of the whole. But the kind of conceptually, the idea of renovating a building, we know from experience with White and other architects, the cost of renovation and the amount of square footage. So we were using those numbers to extend examples. So if you, let's just say you buy a 40,000 square foot building, that building costs you $150 a square foot. You spend $6 million on the building. You need to renovate 40,000 square feet. Our renovation costs have been averaging around $600 a square foot for this type of space. So you'd be spending $24 million in renovation, another $6 million to buy the building. You're hitting $30 million to basically renovate a building that you purchase in a neighborhood that maybe is not near any of the other government services. Or so that was kind of some of the basic discussion that was happening at that meeting. It's not that you can't find a building that you would buy and renovate. It's just that if you own the land, which we do, and you can build in a place where the location is everything, right? The most important thing is location, location, location. But that's kind of what we're working towards. Once the board decides whether they want to pursue this or something else, we have not done any architectural work to do a design concept, a plan, architectural plans, bidding documents. None of that has been done yet. We're waiting to see the direction of the board.
And just to follow up to that, Roger, I do appreciate that,
Sure.
but on 6 different occasions, I asked for further detail on the renovation. We got one presentation, which you are referencing, and it was about 3 minutes long in reference to that. It had one property. So I do specifically remember that. It had been reflective after the fact when I had asked for those things 6 different times in some of my votes. So just to clear up where my brain space is on that, I was not satisfied with what was presented. I had asked for it on 6 different occasions. I did not ever receive anything to my satisfaction. So that's why I feel like we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves here. Obviously we all have to have big conversations about this, but that's my position.
So Ms. Gums, I'll ask you, and this is to everybody here and who may be listening later on the board, please send in what you want to know, the information that you need to help have a better, more full conversation at committee of the whole.
Sure.
Because yeah, we haven't made a decision. The reason we're going with the project in this direction of a new build is because of the recommendations from White and Company that showed doing a renovation is going to be just almost as expensive as building a new building, and it may not serve the ongoing future needs of the health department. So
And just to that point, I understand you and I respectfully, who decided to go in that direction? Because collectively we have not.
well, and that's
So-
something that the board will have to discuss.
Okay, thank you.
Because if they would rather that we go after renovation, then we have to kind of change course a little bit in what resolutions we produce. And that's why I didn't want to have any committee resolutions come before committee of the whole, because we don't know what's going to come out of that. And I would not want to assume what the whole board would want
Thank
to
you.
do. Yeah. Ms. Bates and then Madam Chair.
You said you'd like to know how we feel about possibly canceling these projects in lieu of a public health facility. I'm feeling crummy, or let's say not great, because I feel like we have really pretty much promised a lot of these projects that we're calling under consideration. I guess they weren't completely approved, but when I look at these projects, when I hear about $20 million that were unallocated, I didn't know that that was including all these other projects that we've already looked at and approved, or at least I thought we approved these. They were coming as our internal requests, and we said we would live up to those. I feel honor bound that we have told our internal departments that this was coming. So can't spend the same money twice, as I used to tell my kids. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, this is Alan.
Is everyone muted?
Oh, Chris, I just heard you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. It looks like everybody's muted. Everybody has to unmute themselves. Even Jarrett.
How do we get him to do that?
I sent a text, on the chat. I think he's talking to the tech guy right now. From the looks
Yeah,
of it.
he's look. Hope so. Thanks for. I'm so grateful it wasn't just me. My feeling is it's always just me.
It is a little creepy when there's no sound at all.
I wanted to break in to try and get the list that they have in front of them sent to all of us so we can see what, like Mavis, I thought we'd approved a whole bunch of projects, and to renege on those is worrisome. So I wanted to see what we were reneging on.
Yeah, I think Jarrett forgot to unshare his screen, and that's why we're all mute.
Hey, I have an update. So the main computer, two computers are running Zoom. The main computer with all the audio just crashed. So they're working on getting it back up. So the meeting's still going, but we lost their connection. They're hoping to have it back up in about 2 minutes. So we'll see how that goes.
Thanks,
Okay, thanks, Charles.
That's great, but I think they should stop and wait.
They're not going. The meeting stopped. They're just working on resolving the technical issue. So they're not going on without you.
Oh, thanks so much, Charles. Appreciate it.
Yeah. All right.
Happy holidays.
Yeah, same to you. Thanks.
On the referendum. It's really, it's information.
I just want you.
Chief?
Yeah.
Yeah, but if you
have a hard part,
never have to question.
Well,
I think we're pretty much done. Hello.
it's.
Anybody want to continue? We've got our systems back. I think we're almost done anyway.
Yeah, your people are leaving you, Mr. Chairman.
They have almost all left. Do we still have a quorum? I don't even know that we have a quorum. I don't think we have a quorum.
To wait for Michelle to come back in, she'll make her quorum.
All right, we'll give it a couple minutes. Yeah, Tepe's here.
Okay, I didn't see him.
Yeah. Gums will be back.
You never get rid of Chappie. He's here.
Not
Chairman?
listening.
Mr. Chairman, Bates is here if allowed.
Ah, hi, Ms. Bates. Yeah, computer system
count?
went down, so
Does she count remotely?
not as a quorum, no. You have
Right.
to have a physical quorum.
I just thought I'd ask.
I think you have a physical.
We feel her presence physically, though. I mean, that should count for something. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's
Hey,
just
your
discussion.
side
We're
of
not
the room.
voting. I mean, we,
My side's here.
Mr. Chairman, this is Alan.
hey, Alan, how you doing?
I'm doing fine. Happy holidays.
You as
We
well.
went down, I think the system crashed on my question. So if you'd be willing, when you're ready to go, can I pick up that question?
Yeah, we're gonna get back to it here in just a minute. The
Thanks.
main computer in the room here went down,
Naturally.
of course. Apologies to everybody
Chairman?
online who's listening.
Mr. Chairman, Bates, please. Can I just make a comment?
Hold on, Ms. Bates, it's hard to hear you. All right, let's get started again and just finish up this discussion. Bye, Ms. Lewis. Miss you too. Ms. Bates, you had something you wanted to say?
Right. While we're sort of waiting to get back online, I just wanted to agree with Mr. Tepe that
I think so taking care of our public health department is one of the most important things we can do. So I want to keep this discussion going.
Understood. Absolutely.
I'm sorry, if Ms. Bates agrees with me, she can talk as long as she wants.
Why, thank you, sir.
There's something wrong.
Thank
So,
you.
yeah, I mean, we've had a good conversation at this point. I do think we have a couple more questions. Ms. Juby?
Thank you. So I want to preface this with, Michael, you know I am a huge supporter. There's always a but, and my hair is always down, so I don't wait for the cow. I look at the things that have been promised, and I'm concerned that we are suddenly going to change our mind on those things. But my biggest concern, I guess there's two, is that according to this document, it looks like all $20,000 of the building is going to be coming from ARPA. And that I have a problem with that if it's coming at the expense. According to this document, you have 20 million coming from the ARPA funds.
Before you continue, the 20 million is just what would be requested of ARPA funds. It's not the full project would be more in the ballpark of $30 million.
Okay, so we're talking a $30 million project.
Yeah.
When we are sitting in a room that has plaster falling on us.
Oh, come on.
Just saying. My other concern is, once it's built, do we have the money to staff it?
Well, I believe the answer to that is yes.
And where would that money come from?
Well, that's a Mr. Isaacson question, so I'll ask him to approach the podium.
Good morning.
Still morning.
Michael Isaacson, Executive
Just under
Director of
the
the Health Department. Yeah, barely made it. So we're looking at a build out, and we're also trying to plan 20 years ahead with this facility. So what we would like to do is create a space where we can have more interaction with the public, where people can be coming in. This is, if we move forward, and to Ms. Gumb's comments, no decisions are made. And from my perspective, just speaking as Director of the Health Department, I'd like direction so we can plan, right? Which way should we go? Are we going to have more space? Because then that gets to your comment. How are we going to staff it if we're going to have the same facility we have now? I don't have additional staff, even for people that we're bringing on. We've got people stacked on top of each other. So we're looking at a build out where we've done projections over the next 20 years, what percentage of increase we're going to be seeing. And this is across all of our programs. Some programs are ARP eligible, some aren't, which is why we wouldn't look for the full allocation to come from ARP funding. But this includes everything from our environmental health programs, where we need to build out. We're understaffed in that area, so we're going to need more space. Our communicable disease control programs, where we're seeing increases in funding from the state to help us with infectious diseases that are going on, as well as trying to expand our mental health programs. And then a really important piece to me, like I led with, is creating a space where we can engage with the community. So having somewhere where we can do trainings, where we can do community events, being on, if the decision was made to be on the judicial campus, that gives us the opportunity to be interfacing more with court services, with the Juvenile Justice Center, with people who are showing up there for services who we already know in many cases are at higher need, not only for mental health and for substance use, but also for a myriad of other public health issues. So we're looking at increased state funding. I'm always going to advocate for more local funds as well. But then looking at other funds that we can bill for certain services. And then, of course, as we continue to hopefully see more growth in the community over the next couple of decades, we'll have fees and permits that will also be supporting some of that staffing.
What he said. Yeah. Anything else, Ms. Juby?
Well, I guess it could wait to the cow. However, I think I would like to look at a little bit less money being allocated from ARP, just because I believe there's things on here that I would wait for whoever put forth these proposals to remove them because they feel that they don't have the need or they're not relevant. So I think what I would like to see before cow is how many of those things are actually still under consideration, and how many of them can be removed, and how many of them it just isn't going to be feasible. I would like to see that first before we have a discussion of how much money we can allocate to the health department, which I want you to have a new building. I really do. But I need to see those things happen first.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments, concerns?
Mr. Chairman, Allen,
Oh, Miss Allen, go ahead.
what Ms. Juby said, and is there any way that the list you guys are looking at could be emailed to the rest of us?
It was emailed last night, sent from myself.
My bad, sorry.
All good. And as I said, the actual risk assessment from Ernst and Young is being finalized, I believe. And that will be sent out to everybody once that is finished, so that you can start to look at that. And when you do see the document, it's a risk assessment, so they do tell you, you know, there are certain levels of risk involved. And all that means is not that we should or shouldn't do the project. It just means if there is a risk in some area, we have to have a plan that compensates for that. We have to make sure that we have a way to stay in compliance. So don't be alarmed when you see the risk assessment. The whole point is to tell us all the ways that it's risky, that it's, you know, if we're not careful, it could go wrong. And it's up to us to, if we go after this project, make sure that we have all those things covered. So, Madam Chair.
At the COW, could you please put together a list of other counties that have used their ARP money for public health facilities? We know DuPage has, but I know that there's some other counties as well who have used that money, and that just is an example, so that we're all aware that this is not anything unusual.
We will research that.
Thank you.
Give all those new people something to do.
That's right.
Yeah.
You got it. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Anything else from the committee, those online? Okay, good start to this conversation. Again, it's just, we weren't meant to get very far with this. It's just that first blush, letting this committee know, because the majority of the money would have to, or likely would have to come from ARPA funds. And that's our duty, is to recommend how to use those funds to the full board. So we'll definitely be talking a lot in full at committee of the whole. So again, any suggestions for information that you would like to see, anything that we can incorporate into a presentation, please send that to myself and Ms. Fonstock as soon as possible, so that we have enough time to prepare and make sure that you have as much information as possible going into that meeting. And other than that, I think we have no other business before us today. We don't have anything on here for review of closed session minutes, although we do have closed session within the past year in my recollection. So we are going to follow up with the state's attorney on that to make sure that we remain in compliance. So that may be something we bring forward next month. We have no public comment on non-agenda items that I'm aware of at this time, so I will entertain a motion and a second to
I would
adjourn.
move we adjourn till next year.
Kenyon moves.
Strathman
Let's start
Strathman
fresh.
seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee.